Hello everyone, this is OmniTamer. As promised, I'm back with my list of third-party characters I think should be in Super Smash Bros. U. There's a couple of things I'd like to say right off the bat before we get started. First of all, I think that every character represented in the Super Smash Bros. Universe should have some sort of enemy or rival character to play against. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a villain, but I think that some sort of anti-hero or another representative of the universe should be there. In other words, I'm against having just one character from a franchise. That being said, let's get started. First up is one of my personal favorites, Lloyd Irving from the Tales of Symphonia series. Now there's a couple reasons why I think it's very likely that Lloyd will make it into this game. First of all, his appearance was on the GameCube. Tales of Symphonia was one of GameCube's best games, and as the leader of the party in that game, I think he would make a great representative for Super Smash Bros. Also, because the Tales series uses anime, their characters tend to be very animated and cartoony, a great fit for the Super Smash Bros. Universe. Most importantly, Lloyd is the property of Namco. Since Nintendo has already announced that Namco will be developing the new Super Smash Bros. Game, I think it only makes sense that they would want their characters represented in the game. Lloyd is also no stranger to cameo appearances. Not only has he appeared in all of the Tales of Symphonia crossover series, Tales of the World, but he also made a cameo appearance in Soul Calibur Legends, and he's a fan favorite amongst Nintendo gamers. So really, I think it makes sense for him to be in this game. Not only that, Lloyd would make a great fit for the Super Smash Bros. Universe. For those of you who have never played a Tales of Symphonia game, the game is essentially a fighting game done in RPG style. In other words, you do level up and gain new abilities, but all the fighting is done in real time, and it sort of feels like an old school arcade fighting game. The way that the Tales of Symphonia battle system works is that you have your standard attacks, and then by pressing a certain direction on the directional pad, you can do certain special attacks. For instance, if you go left or right, it's one attack, up a different attack, or down a different attack. Does it sound familiar to anyone? He could also use moves like Soaring Falcon to be a great recovery move. The simple fact is that characters in the Tales series seem almost custom-made for the Super Smash Bros. Universe, since the control scheme used in their original appearances very closely resembles the Super Smash Bros. Control scheme. The next character that I think should make it in would be Kratos. No, not that Kratos. Kratos Aryan, also from the Tales of Symphonia series. Not only is he a great rival character for Lloyd, but more importantly, he would fit the Super Smash Bros. Mold as well. Because, unlike Lloyd, Kratos doesn't rely solely on his sword to fight. In fact, a lot of Kratos' moves, being a Mage Knight, rely on magic. And other than Ganondorf, by far the worst character in the Super Smash Bros. Universe, and Zelda, there really aren't very many characters that use magic. So I think that he would make a very interesting combination of both physical combat and magical combat. That's something that really isn't embodied in one character so far. Kind of in Zelda Sheik, but you have to transform back and forth. Kratos would be able to use physical and magical combat on the fly and change between them very quickly. That's not something that a character in the Smash Bros. Universe has right now. So because of his variety in combat and his moveset that's very similar to Lloyd's in the sense that it seems as though it would be extremely easy to integrate it into the Smash Bros. Universe, Kratos would make an excellent addition to this game. Speaking of characters that know how to balance physical and magical attack, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better example than Sora from the Kingdom Hearts series. Sora is important to Nintendo because, with the exception of Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and Birth by Sleep, all of the Kingdom Hearts games have come out in some form on a Nintendo console. So Nintendo has seen a whole lot of business from the Kingdom Hearts series, and it's clear that Square Enix doesn't have a problem with putting their games on this console. A partnership between Square Enix and Nintendo would also not be a new thing. They've worked together on several projects, probably the most famous of which being Super Mario RPG: The Legend of the Seven Stars. But more importantly, Sora would make a great brawler and addition to the Super Smash Bros. Lineup. Not only would he be able to use his Keyblade, but he has a range of magical spells he could use as attacks as well. For instance, he could use Arrow to recover, and then use a physical attack like Sonic Blade as his side B. And Sora would not only be easy to integrate into the fighting system, but he would also be easy to integrate into the storyline. The entire Kingdom Hearts series is about Sora and other characters jumping around from world to world to try to stop the Heartless. So it's really not much of a stretch to expect that Sora could have traveled to the Nintendo worlds as well. Overall, I think it would make a great addition to the roster. If Nintendo did add Sora, I think it would be a mistake for them not to also add Riku. Riku is not only a great rival character to fight against Sora, but he's a very important character in the series. Not to mention, he's probably the most popular character in the series. Riku is also a playable character in 3 out of the 4 Kingdom Hearts games that have come out for a Nintendo system. And like Sora, Riku can also use a combination of both physical attacks and magic. He also has some moves that would work great with the Super Smash Bros. Directional system. For example, Dark Break would be a great down smash attack, and Dark Aura would be a perfect final smash for him. Also, thus far, Super Smash Bros. Has several hero characters and a handful of villain characters, but one thing it really doesn't have is an anti-hero character. Now, I know that Dark Pit would fulfill this role pretty well from my first list, but as far as third parties go, I think they need more anti-heroes like Riku. Speaking of rival characters, while I was absolutely thrilled to see Sonic in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I don't think it makes any sense for them to have Sonic if they're not going to add a character from the Sonic universe for him to fight against. I think the perfect character for this is Knuckles the Echidna. One of the reasons that I think Super Smash Bros. Really needs to include Knuckles is because he has a dynamic they don't really have yet. I talked about this a little bit in my last video about Bowser Jr., but I think Knuckles would bring a similar dynamic, because Knuckles would be a powerhouse that's easy to launch. Unlike most of the powerful characters in Super Smash Bros. Right now, like Donkey Kong, Bowser, and King Dedede, Knuckles would be fairly lightweight and very difficult to hit. However, I think Knuckles should be good at making recoveries by using his glide technique. So in other words, he may be easy to launch, but he's not easy to kill. He would sort of be a combination of Captain Falcon and Pit. Knuckles is also a tricky character in the Sonic universe, so I think he should have some tricky moves. For example, his down B could be Shovel Claw and he pops up somewhere else in the stage. I'm not saying that necessarily has to be a dynamic he would bring, but I think it would be an interesting way to fight. There's just so much that you can do with Knuckles, he would be a real benefit to have in the lineup. Another character I think would make an interesting addition is Dr. Robotnik. While I realize they do already have Sonic, and if they follow my suggestions, Knuckles as well. But I think Robotnik would add enough variety to the battlefield to merit him having his own character. I think that there's a couple of different ways they could go with this. They could either have him out walking around and use a variety of his robots to attack, sort of the way that Olimar does with his Pikmin, or they could have him already in the Egg Walker and have the Egg Walker transform into different things as he fights. Robotnik attacks Sonic in so many different ways over the 20-something years that they've been fighting each other that I think there's basically no limit to the kind of character you could make Robotnik into. He has so much variety with his moves, he could be just as versatile a fighter as Link or Toon Link. However, I think in Robotnik's case, the thing that he would bring most to the Super Smash Bros. Universe isn't his fighting ability at all. I think the primary reason he should be a playable character is because of the storyline. Think about a storyline where Robotnik, Ganondorf, and Bowser are all plotting against the good characters. While I think that he could still make a very interesting and useful fighter, frankly I think he should be in the game if nothing else just as a character to enrich the storyline. Now this next character I think has a very good chance of making it in for a couple of reasons. First of all, she's a great character that comes from a long line of fighting games. Secondly, because she is owned by Namco, who, as I've stated before, is already said to be developing the new Super Smash Bros. Game. Despite Soul Calibur 3, 4, and 5 not appearing on a Nintendo system, the Wii did get an exclusive Soul Calibur Legends. Also, Soul Calibur 1 and 2 wound up on the GameCube, which was very successful and even featured Link as a guest fighter. So it's not that far-fetched to believe that they would have a crossover the other way and have a Soul Calibur character in Super Smash Bros. I do think Sophitia would be a valuable character on her own without all those other reasons though. Sophitia is a great swordswoman who has high defense because she has the shield. She has great footwork and speed. Not to mention, she is iconic because she's the original wielder of the Soul Calibur. And, though this is really just more of a bonus reason, Sophia would also help increase the number of female fighters that are on Brawl's roster. I also think a very interesting attack for her, as well as any other Soul Calibur character that might make their way into Super Smash Bros., would be the Soul Charge. For those of you who haven't played Soul Calibur yet, what a Soul Charge does is it increases the attack power of any attack done after the charge takes place. Making that one of her moves would be sort of a high-risk, high-reward sort of thing. I think as a fighting game character already, Sophia would be much easier to integrate than some of the characters they've already integrated into the game. Overall, this is why I think that she would be a really fun character to play as. Whether he appears in the new Super Smash Bros. As Sophia's rival or just by himself, I think it is not only necessary but very likely that Nightmare is going to wind up in the new game. Like Sophia, he is also a Soul Calibur character, which means he is owned by Namco, also increasing his chances of making it in. I think that like Sophia, Nightmare should be allowed to use the Soul Charge ability that I mentioned beforehand. But more importantly, I think Nightmare adds something that goes beyond his fighting ability. In reality, Nightmare himself is not a bad guy. It's actually his sword, the Soul Edge, that drives him to consume the souls of the innocent. This is a very dark origin story for a character, much darker than anything Super Smash Bros. Has in it thus far. I realize that this might actually hurt his chances of being in the new Smash Bros. I mean, Nintendo does try to make everything that they do family friendly. However, I think this adds an element that another character in Smash Bros. Doesn't have and should be part of it. Smash Bros. Is generally intended to a much older audience than Nintendo realizes anyway. Adding a great dark character like Nightmare adds a sinister feel to the game that it doesn't have right now. This next character would probably be sort of a challenge to integrate into the Super Smash Bros. Universe, but I think it would be well worth it. The Swordsman from Red Steel 2 is not only a great character from a Nintendo exclusive franchise, but as a fighter he has the advantage of having both close-range sword attacks and long-range firearm attacks. He also has several specialty moves like the Rattlesnaker the Dragon that would allow him to be a very versatile fighter and keep up with the other Nintendo characters despite only being a human. I fully realize that this prediction is sort of a stretch, but to anybody that's played Red Steel 2 will tell you it's easily one of the best games on the Wii. Because of that, if nothing else, I think he should at least have a seat at the table. You're gonna have to grab your nostalgia hats for this next one. Chrono from Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross for the Super Nintendo is one of the most iconic Square Enix characters of all time, especially considering he's not a Final Fantasy character. Not only is Chrono extremely iconic and would be a great deal of fan service in the Smash Bros. Universe, more importantly, he's a great fighter. He combines a lot of speed using his katana and strength, not to mention his lightning magic. He has a variety of techniques such as lightning, cyclone, and luminaire that would certainly keep other fighters on their toes. Adding a classic old school character like Chrono would be a big nod to the Nintendo fan base. A great rival character for Chrono to fight against would be Magus. Now, I really can't go into a whole lot of detail here because I don't want to spoil anything for the people who may not have played Chrono Trigger yet. And by the way, if you haven't, you really need to. It's an amazing game. Magus would not only be a great addition because he would add that elusive anti-hero quality that I mentioned beforehand, but he would also be the only Super Smash Bros. Character that uses a scythe. There are plenty of characters that use swords, but not a single one that uses scythes. This would probably grant him not only a lot of power but a lot of range. However, Magus is most known for his variety in magic using. He can use all four of the different elements which no other character in the Chrono Trigger universe can use. Using these different elements as his specialty moves would be a great way to show off his magic ability. Also, his Dark Matter attack would be a perfect final smash. Magus would be yet another great villain character to add to the Super Smash Bros. Lineup. This next character I realize is a very goofy and awkward pick, but not only is he extremely iconic, but he's also extremely likely to make it in because, again, he's a Namco-owned character. Pac-Man is probably the second most well-known video game character of all time, right after Mario. While it's true that Pac-Man doesn't have a whole lot of variety in what he can do, If you've played any of the Pac-Man World titles, which admittedly are not as good as the original Pac-Man, he does gain a lot of interesting new abilities. I'm not gonna lie, Pac-Man's gonna be a real challenge to integrate into the Super Smash Bros. Universe, but I think he's almost certain to make it in. Nintendo has Mario, Sega has Sonic, and for Namco, their mascot is Pac-Man. As one of the great classical retro video game characters of all time, I think that Pac-Man will make a great addition to the roster if they can integrate him properly and make him a viable character. Speaking of great iconic video gaming mascots, I think it would be a mistake if they made this game without putting Mega Man in there. Not only is Mega Man extremely iconic, but more importantly, he's extremely versatile. Mega Man has so many different kinds of weapons that they could make him into pretty much whatever kind of fighter that they wanted to. I think the best bet would be to make him a character like Link, that has to balance between fighting close range and fighting far off. Right now, the only really versatile character that has that is Link and Toon Link, and they're pretty similar. So I think that Mega Man would add another variety character that has a lot of options in battle. I do think that there's a strong case to be made for Mega Man being in the game if nothing else for the sake of completeness. Mega Man is right up there with Sonic, Mario, and Pac-Man as one of the great video game mascots of all time. And if he's not there, while I'm certain the game will still be great, it'll still feel like something's missing, and Nintendo really shouldn't do that. And last but certainly not least, I think that the rival character that should appear in the game to rival Mega Man is Bass. Bass is another one of those great anti-hero characters that I think really needs to be in the game. Not to mention, he's almost just as versatile as Mega Man is, which means that they could do pretty much whatever they wanted to with him in the game. I think that they should focus primarily on his power moves. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of Dr. Wily being the rival character instead, but frankly I think Bass is much more Mega Man's rival than Dr. Wily. Dr. Wily does fight him, but it's always in giant robots and it's rarely directly. Even Dr. Robotnik has shown that he can handle himself without his machines, while Dr. Wily has not. However, Bass would make a great anti-hero figure for Mega Man to fight against. And if Mega Man does make an appearance in this game, I think it's only natural that Bass should be in there as well. So that's it, my entire third-party list for the characters I think should be in the new Super Smash Bros. Game. Who on the list did you like or not like? Let me know in the comments below. If there's anyone you felt got left out, let me know about that as well. Did I do a good job on this or totally screw this up? Let me know your opinions. Just remember that if you do happen to disagree with me, it's only because you're a racist communist that button mashes in all of his matches. Stay the course, friends.